Anaki, you work in investments, right? What should I buy? Well, I can't just tell you just like that. I need to know what your goals are, what's your risk profile. Okay, goals, fine, but my risk what? What's my risk
Yes, your
profile?
body risky.
Risky.
Hey guys, today we're looking at risk. There are a myriad of investments out there and even more people telling you what to invest in. However, the only way you can know for sure what is right for you and your investment portfolio is having a grasp of what your risk profile is. First, let us start out with what is risk. Risk describes the chance that your investment doesn't perform in the way that you expected and you lose some or even all of your investment. All investments carry some degree of risk, and the amount of risk will vary dependent on the type of investments. You have lower risk investments like bonds or treasuries, and the risk level goes up where you look at stocks or even alternative investment. Risk will also depend on the length of time that your investment is held for. The longer an investment, it's the higher the risk that it carries. Another thing to look at is the actual characteristics of the entity issuing that investment. So if we're looking at stock, if you purchase the stock of a well-known company that has been performing for years, like Colgate, that would be a lower risk investment than if you were to purchase the shares of a startup company. The risk of an investment is dependent on that investment's characteristics. However, when we talk about your risk profile, that all depends on you. Your risk tolerance or your risk profile is made up of two components. It is your willingness and your ability to take on risk. Your willingness to take on risk is pretty straightforward. It is your comfort level with fluctuations in the value of your investments. So if you are one of those persons who lose sleep whenever the value of your investment falls, you would be of a lower risk willingness to take on risk than someone who is comfortable knowing that the value of investments fluctuate and you are okay with taking the necessary actions when this happens. The second part of your risk profile is your ability to take on risk. Now, your ability to take on risk is your ability to recover in the event that your investment underperforms. There are several factors that contribute to your ability to take on risk, but today we're going to look at three. The first is age, second is your financial status / earning power, and third is your obligations or goals. So how does age affect your ability to take on risk? Quite simply, the younger you are, the better you would be able to recover in the event of risk. The premise is that the younger you are, that means you have way more time until retirement to be able to earn whatever you have lost. Secondly, your earning power and your financial status. This is kind of intuitive that the more you earn is the more your ability to recover in the event that you lose your money. So say you have a steady income and good amount of savings and not that much debt. Should you invest some money and you lose that money, then you would be more comfortable knowing that you have income coming in to be able to recover for your losses. However, if you are someone who doesn't have an income and you risk all of your savings, in the event of a loss, you're kind of dark, as we would say, or you have a very desperate situation on your hands. So in that situation with a lower income level, it will be more of a struggle for you to recover in the event that you lose on an investment. And the third component we will look at when talking about your ability to take on risk is your obligations or your goals. So if you have a higher amount of obligations, maybe family responsibilities, debts, things that you will need you to use cash in the near term, that would mean that you have a lower ability to take on risk. So that would suggest that you wouldn't go putting all of your money into a high risk investment, but you would make provisions to be able to meet your obligations in the event that an investment were to go south or to underperform. Likewise, if you have minimal debts, minimal obligations, then you would be in a better situation to take on some risk, because the only inconvenience would be for you. So, for example, if you are intending on purchasing a property in January and you have saved some money, now it's August. It wouldn't be the best time to put all of your savings in a very high risk investment, knowing that you have a very short time span where you will need those funds. Otherwise, if you have a much longer dated goal, like if you're planning to buy that land in 5 years, then there would be more room for you to take additional risk in your investments, knowing that your goal is a much further distance away. So, bringing it all together, your risk tolerance looks at all of the different factors that we discussed today, and in making an assessment of each of these areas, it will give you a better idea of what investments will work for you and a reasonable idea of what amount you can put in different types of investments. Like this in a more practical sense. Say you are older and you have a shorter time till retirement, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, but you also have a lot of obligations. So you have children's school fee that needs to be paid, college tuition, and you have a family depending on you. You would have a lower risk tolerance, and in compiling your investments, you might decide to put 80% of your investments into low risk assets like government bonds or fixed deposits, and then opt to put 20% of your investments into higher risk securities like stocks or alternative investments. On the other hand, if you are younger, you are say mid-20s, you finished paying your student loans, you have no kids, and you are your main obligation, you have the flexibility to put your investments in higher risk securities. So you may decide to put 80% of your investments in stocks or alternative investments, and keep 20% in a more secure investment as a rainy day fund, or just to build up some cash for your next risky investment. So these classifications, low risk and high risk, are pretty generic, and there are many different variations along the spectrum. You might be very low risk, moderate risk, moderately high risk, very high risk. So each person will need to assess their own situation to determine what their risk profile is. And once you check your risk profile, then it will make it so much easier for you to narrow down what investments suit you and what investments just don't suit you right now, but you might have an opportunity to choose them in the future. And also for you, more shy investors out there, that can give you an idea too that you do have the flexibility to take on a little bit more risk to give yourself a little bit more return on your investment.